hope you're doing well. So for this video, I'm going to be answering all of your dating and relationship questions. Initially, I thought that I was going to do a role play for this video, but I got so many questions on dating and relationships that I decided just to do it in more of like a Q&A sort of format. And there's so many questions that honestly I don't even know if I'll be able to answer all of them in this video, but I will answer as many as I can. As I'm looking at myself right now, I'm realizing that I kind of look like Minnie Mouse in this outfit. It's definitely serving some Minnie Mouse vibes. Alright, so the first question that I got asked sort of a lot was how to meet people. It's interesting because, you would think now during this time period where there's literally God knows how many dating apps that people would be interacting with each other and meeting more than ever, but it kind of seems to be the opposite in a lot of ways. Like from the people that I talk to, it seems that people are more lonely than ever, and our phones are more of a hindrance to meeting people and forming like meaningful connections than they are, beneficial. So while dating apps are amazing for sort of like initiating, it seems like for most people things really never get off the ground. And I think it's because you're just like so oversaturated with such a variety of different people, that for women that are on dating apps, I know it can be overwhelming because you just get so many messages that even the most subtle thing, like say for example, someone says like, oh, I don't know, I like building model trains. I don't know, it's the first random thing that came to mind. But you see that and you just like initially you're like, oh, well, I'm not interested in that. Swipe, not interested. Whereas if you were meeting someone in person, chemistry really trumps all. And if you were sitting with someone and you were vibing with them and they said something that they were interested in, or I don't know, revealed a little something that maybe wasn't 100% in alignment with you, it would be something that you would entirely overlook. But I think since we're so oversaturated with people, we tend to disregard people based on the most like inconsequential minutia that they put in their profiles, when at the end of the day, really the only thing that matters, well, not the only thing, but the most important thing, I think we would all agree, is chemistry. And that's something that you're not going to be able to pick up on in a dating app. You're going based on an image, and an image that could, one, be highly altered, whether it's an old picture or whether they've face-tuned themselves, you never know. So, you're making this whole decision based on like a very false reality. So in my opinion, my humble opinion, my hair is like not cooperating. In my humble opinion, it is much better, if you're comfortable doing it, to do something like a Meetup. So there's an app that's called Meetup, and it's in a lot of different cities. I live in Los Angeles, and there was like a million meetups near Los Angeles. So when I was single, I personally found that I really enjoyed this app, Meetup. And this is not sponsored by Meetup. They have no idea who I am. But what was cool about Meetup, sorry, I'm distracted by my hair. So what was cool about Meetup was, it's not a one-on-one thing. You're not going there and meeting up with one person. You find something that you specifically are interested in, whether that's, in my case, I really loved hiking, and I really loved going to see like live comedy. Those are the two that I was most interested in, but there's literally a group for every possible thing that you could think of under the sun. So you find an interest that you have, and then you would search for it on this app, and there's gonna be a group for you, I swear. Like, no matter how obscure like your interest is, there will be a group for this. And what's nice is you're able to go and have a more natural interaction with people, and you don't feel the pressure of having to necessarily get something off the ground like instantly. I think something can develop a little more naturally in a group setting, and beyond that, it's also just a good way to meet friends, because not all of us are necessarily looking for a relationship. And I feel like within that format, you're able to show up without any sort of pressure as to what something's going to develop into. It could just be a casual friendship or something more, but the problem with a lot of dating apps is, people have this expectation of what they want in a relationship, and I think that so many women, having this idea in their head that like, okay, I want to be in an exclusive monogamous relationship, and they go into the first date like so hell-bent on asking the guy they're on the date with like a million questions in terms of like what they want out of the relationship and blah blah blah, and it kind of terrifies a lot of guys. And I think for women, it would be better for them to just, first and foremost, just see if you have chemistry with someone. Like, don't lead with all these intrusive questions in terms of like, why did you get divorced, and like how many kids do you want, and that type of thing. Like, all of that is really, arbitrary if you don't vibe and have chemistry with the person. So, I got a lot of questions, I would assume, for women that were asking like, how do you get a guy to open up? And I would say, don't try to force that. I worked at a school for a really long time as a behaviorist, and I'm looking for something to kind of like make some sort of ASMR noises with. So, as a behaviorist, it was my job more or less to get the students to open up and, talk about their feelings. But in order to get someone to talk about their feelings, like, trust has to be established. So I would never walk up to a student that was like brand new to the school and just be like, so how do you feel about your parents' divorce? That's, immediately a wall is going to go up, their guard is going to go up, and the same is true of dating. I don't think that it's a good idea to show up with this litany of questions for your prospective partner in terms of what they're looking for, why, like, relationships in the past didn't work out for them. One, it's really uncomfortable to be asked those types of personal questions by a first date. This is not a therapy session. It should be fun. And two, I've heard a lot of women say, like, oh, well, I don't want to, waste my time if someone's not on the same page as me. But I would say that, one, say you ask a guy on a very first date, why did you get divorced? He's not going to give you the honest, from the heart answer that you are like looking to get at that point. He's going to give you some like stock answer that he's formed in his head about, oh, we drifted apart, blah blah blah. And so it's really, one, it's useless to ask those very invasive questions because no one's going to give you an authentic answer. And two, it's off-putting. I really think that first dates are for seeing if you have chemistry, seeing if you have fun together, seeing if you vibe. It's not for, putting someone in an interrogation chair. Nobody wants that. So, stop doing that, people. Just, be chill. Don't show up to a date with the expectation in your head of, where is this going to go? I want to be in this type of relationship. I want to be married. I want to be this. I want to be that. Like, show up with no expectation other than, like, oh, I'm looking forward to talking to and meeting a new person and learning a little about that person and just having fun. Don't stress yourself out showing up with all these expectations as to like where you want the date to go. Because as the joke says, how do you make God laugh? By making a plan. You can't plan for things, you really just have to be in the moment and go with the flow and just have fun with that. It's not, always about meeting the one. It's just about getting out and interacting and having a good time. So yeah, don't force things. If something's meant to be, and it's of my personal opinion that there's nothing that you can do to, stop that from happening if it's your destiny. If it's not meant to be, there's nothing you can do to force it into happening. So I just feel that it would be much better for everyone to just chill out, go with the flow, just have fun in the moment without the expectation of, where is this going? You can ask those questions later on, but don't have those questions in your mind when you're first meeting someone. Another question that a lot of people were asking was, like how not to be nervous on a first date. So first and foremost, it's totally normal to be nervous showing up for a first date or a first meeting with someone. It would be kind of unusual to be showing up to meet strangers and not have some form of like apprehension about it. It does get more, relaxing and less stressful the more you do it. But the thing that I would say is being brave is not doing things that you're not scared of. Being brave is feeling the fear and doing it anyways. And I would really say for people that have sort of like a fear of dating, of putting themselves out there, I would invite you to think about it from the standpoint of not the result. We are sort of taught to think about things, I think especially in Western culture, in a very results-based framework. So we see something as a failure if we don't achieve the results that we intended to achieve. But more so than getting a woman or getting a man to like you, I would say first approach it from getting to a place where you don't need their approval and that you are just conquering the fear of putting yourself out there and being vulnerable, and that the result you're seeking is not the act of being accepted by someone else. The goal that you are seeking for your first step is just allowing yourself to do something that you're scared of, something that gives you a little anxiety, and you're going to put yourself out there without the expectation of the success in meeting a woman or a man, but the success of conquering your own fear. Because I really think that ultimately that's the most important thing. If fear is what's holding you back, nobody wants to be rejected, but don't put that as that is what you're striving to avoid. What you're striving to avoid is being so afraid of living life that you spend your entire existence sitting on the sidelines, afraid to act. That's the true tragedy. The tragedy is not some random person not liking you, who cares? The tragedy is not taking any action and allowing fear to dictate and to impose some sort of prison around you. Because the more we give in to fear, the stronger its grasp is going to become. So I just really think that it's important to set really, it's not a small goal, it's a huge goal, but to set the goal as your own empowerment of taking life into your own hands and being the one that's holding the reins, and not be so concerned with whether or not someone's going to approve of you. It's not what's most important. So another thing that a lot of people asked was sort of like how to make themselves more desirable to the opposite sex. So a really important tip that I would say is, so many people show up for a date and they're thinking about being the beloved. So we'll divide it into two categories. You have the lover and you have the beloved. One person who is expressing the love, one person that's receiving the love. So I think so many people show up to a date and they have this need in their head to win over and impress the other person. And that is a lot of pressure to go into something thinking that you're going to be putting on this, little tap dancing performance and getting someone to be, blown away by you. It's a lot of pressure to show up to a date in that mindset. So I'll say something that's advice in terms of, one, it takes a lot of pressure off of you. Two, it really works. if you approach the date not thinking about getting that person to like you, to fall in love with you, if you approach the date with thinking, I'm gonna make this person feel really, really good about themselves, that honestly is usually what really works in my experience. I'll be like 100% honest with you. I'm a little shy when I first meet people, and I'm not someone that really enjoys opening up to strangers. So this is sort of a technique that I developed, and it, one, makes me feel more comfortable because I'm not performing, and two, I've found people really enjoy it. Everyone's starved to talk about themselves. Everyone is starved to feel seen and understood and heard. If you can make someone feel those things, if you can make someone feel comfortable, funny, intelligent, desired, and you don't have to do all of those things at once. You can go on stages, but if you're able to make someone feel like they're the only person in the room, that they're special to you, they're going to be way more addicted to that feeling than any story you could have told them. So, as I guess sort of narcissistic as that sounds in terms of other people, it really it takes so much pressure off of you if you think about putting the spotlight on them. So try to think about it like that. Move this a little closer to me. Try to think about it like that, and I guarantee you that you'll feel a lot less stressed if you put the focus on them. And I assure you, for the most part, that people will eat that up. And I'm not saying ask them a bunch of personal questions, because that's what I was, telling you not to do at the beginning. But it's just showing attention and interest and making someone feel comfortable laughing at their jokes. I know it sounds kind of like you're being phony, but it's just about trying to make the other person feel good. And I'm not saying like this is something that you have to do in every circumstance, but I'm saying that this is how you would act if you were with someone that you wanted to like you in a romantic way, and you were stressed about the prospect of going on a date with this person. This is just a tip to make you feel a little bit more comfortable. But on a more lighthearted level. So, as I was saying before, you're not going to go in and lead with questions like, what's your biggest fear? Or, why did things not work out with your last relationship? Like, those are going to make people feel more on guard. But questions like, more about like their favorite type of music, their favorite type of movies. Like, you find out a hobby that they have, whether that's cooking or painting, and you ask them follow-up questions about how they got into that, and you let them talk, and you are interested in getting to know them, not about necessarily like the things that have happened to them, but them as a person. People like like that, and it makes them feel comfortable. So hopefully, you kind of understand what I'm talking about in terms of asking questions where you're getting to know a person versus questions where you are interrogating that person. And don't interrupt people, let them finish. Make eye contact, smile. Let them know that you really want to hear what they have to say, that you find them funny and interesting. People always say they don't remember what you say, but people are going to remember how you make them feel. So try to come at it from that perspective. Don't be so in your own head in terms of thinking that the whole show is about you. Make the show revolve around them if you're shy and slightly nervous. So then I also got a lot of questions about people asking how to get people to stop doing various behaviors. There's a lot of different examples of behaviors. So I'm not gonna go into the specifics, but I'm gonna answer it in a very general way. So this is a little manipulative, but it does work. And this is something that you're gonna have to do very early on, I would say. So I don't know if you remember, this is kind of like a teacher technique. When you were back in school, a lot of teachers will kind of hype you up like you are the best class they've ever had, that you guys are the best period they ever have. So I know it's something that I did a lot. You don't necessarily want to tell people the behavior that you don't want, because you're putting a spotlight on the undesired behavior. What you want to do is praise them for the behavior that you want to see more of. No one likes a nag, and no one really likes to constantly feel like they're doing something wrong. If someone feels like they have nothing to lose and you're against them, they don't really have the motivation to be your shining star. So for example, say, it was 5th period and those students would come in, a teacher could say something like, "Oh my God, I am so glad to have you guys. Don't tell the other periods, but you guys are by far the best class of the entire day. I never have to ask you guys to go get your pencils or your books. You just know exactly what you need to do. You come in, you sit down, you start working quietly. I love that so much about you guys. If only all the other classes would be like you guys, it would make my life so much easier." And the students will be sitting there smugly thinking that they're the best and most prized students that you have. So the same is true of people. If there's a quality that you want to see more of, compliment the person for that behavior a lot. Let them know how much you appreciate how they are, for example, such a great communicator, and you love how they just say exactly what's on their mind, and you respect that so much about them and how it's so refreshing to finally meet someone that just opens up and tells it like it is, and how it's so sexy and such a turn on, yada yada yada. If you want someone to behave in a certain way, make them feel like it's something that they are already doing naturally and that you love it about them. I find that expression, you catch more bears with honey than you do with traps, is very true. It works to your advantage to hype people up more than it does to tear them down and tell them all the things they're doing wrong. Tell them what you love. And if it's something they really don't do regularly, instead of nagging them for not doing it enough, try to think of a time they did do it and just kind of casually point out, oh my God, I loved it that one time when you did such and such. Like, that just made me fall so much in love with you, whatever. Draw out the behavior that you want by just talking about how much you desire it and respect it and admire it, and how the opposite of that behavior is a turn off to you, but not in a nagging way, just in a guys that aren't able to communicate how they feel is just such a turn off. I'm so over guys that don't know what they want. What I love about you is that you know exactly what you want and you're not afraid to ask for it. Once you've put that idea into somebody's head, they think that they are that person. And it works out for everyone. One, you get more the behavior that you want, and two, they feel proud of the way that you view them. And it does sound, I guess, manipulative, but I think it's so much better than nagging people and always telling people what they're doing wrong. Nobody wants that. It's gonna push people away. So a lot of people asked me, what's my type? What am I attracted to? I don't have a type per se. I think everyone I've ever gone out with is very different. The one sort of universal trait I would say that everyone possesses that I've been out with is sort of a quiet confidence. And there's a big difference between confidence and arrogance. So that's something that you kind of have to be very aware of. Arrogance is actually something that you want to avoid, because arrogance, ironically, comes from a place of insecurity. Someone that is truly comfortable in their own skin and likes who they are is not going to be constantly trying to convince you of how amazing they are. They're just going to let their actions sort of prove that. You don't want a person that is trying too hard to show you how amazing they are, because it's not authentic and they need your approval very, very desperately. And when they realize that they don't have your approval, it's going to be a dangerous thing in the sense that they can become very mean. Someone that likes who they are, if they feel that they don't have someone's approval, it doesn't affect them personally and they don't go into attack mode. A person with a very fragile ego is going to be very defensive and very verbally abusive when they feel like you're not seeing them in the light that they want to be seen in. And so people asked what red flags are. I would say a red flag is someone that has any form of a temper. I would also say it's a red flag if someone is trying too hard to win you over, because often is the case that's not personal. When someone's trying so hard to win you over, lots of times they're a narcissist, and it's just a fun game for them to see how many people they can get to fall in love with them. And they love seeing themselves mirrored in the eyes of the other person. They get off on the fact that that other person is thinking they're so amazing and so wonderful, and they're addicted to that. They're not really looking for an authentic connection with you, and they will sort of disregard you once the high of you falling for them wears off. And they'll want to achieve that again with another person. So I know it's kind of a very broad thing to look for, but I think in life it's easy to fall for narcissists because they're the ones that are going to be sort of pursuing you the hardest and seemingly saying all the right things and doing all the right things, but it's kind of a sport to them, as opposed to a person that is not trying so hard to be the perfect person, because there are no perfect people. You want to be with the person that, it just allows things to develop naturally at their own pace, that isn't always trying to wow you. That's hard to sustain, and very rarely is it sustainable. I think, I've heard people refer to it as like the blue flame, where, something's burning so brightly, but that blue flame goes out quickly. You want a slow burn that builds. So, I guess that would be my advice in terms of things to be a little bit aware of. Beware of the ones that are trying too hard to make you think they're so wonderful, because most of the times those are the ones that are the most dangerous. If you're looking for a really serious relationship, I encourage you to give chances to the people that don't completely blow you away on the first date, because oftentimes those people, ironically, make the best partners. You don't want the person that is a professional charmer, so to speak. That's not the person that most likely is going to be in it with you for the long haul. You're just their current mark. And not to be negative, but most likely they will eat you up and chew you up and spit you out and move on to the next conquest. So another question I got a lot was, what impresses me most? So living in LA, it's kind of a rarity to find people that are emotionally healthy. So I would say that someone that is emotionally healthy and someone who likes themselves is the thing that impresses me the most. So the thing with being in a relationship with someone who likes themselves is they are going to be able to accept and receive the love that you give them because they feel like they deserve to be loved in a healthy way. If you're with someone that does not truly love themselves, they eventually are going to sort of resent you for loving them because they don't feel like they deserve it, and they will lose respect for you for being nice to them and treating them in the way that they deserve to be treated. And that is a losing battle. Loving yourself is an inside job. You would think that, this person doesn't have confidence, they don't like themselves, I'm gonna love them so much and so hard that I'm gonna fix them. It's not the way it works. They have to fix them. So you can't love someone better and make them healthy. That's something they're gonna have to do on their own. And ironically, it's gonna have the opposite effect. If you really try to love someone super hard that doesn't love themselves, like I said, they're gonna not respect you for it, and they're gonna treat you badly because they don't feel they deserve it, and they're gonna push you away. You're gonna make them uncomfortable. So rule number one is just finding someone that's emotionally healthy. Number two, for me personally, I don't like people that are fake. They make me very uncomfortable. If I feel like someone's putting on an air, they're not being themselves, that's immediately going to be off-putting to me. Because what I enjoy most in a relationship is authenticity and being as raw and unedited as we can possibly be with one another. And so that someone that's very comfortable in their own skin and someone who likes who they are, that's where I'm going to start off from. Then we move beyond that. Then you're going to move to qualities more like, are they, intelligent? Are they funny? Do they have depth? Are they kind? Those are the things that I look for in a person. And like I said, how do they make me feel? Am I comfortable around them? Do they bring out the best version of me? It's important as well. Some people we may like, but they don't bring out the best version of us. And it's not really advantageous for us to be around them, even though we may like them as a person. They can drain our energy or just in some sort of way just kind of rub us the wrong way. And it's nothing personal. It's just, you never really know who's going to make you feel good and who's going to make you feel bad. There's some people that You can be with them for 15 minutes and it feels like an eternity. And there's other people you can spend the entire day with and never feel drained. And, you can just wake up wanting more of that person. And that's just a feeling that has to be experienced. That's not something that you can put on paper. Again, that's why dating apps are not really that useful. You have to go based on how that person makes you feel when you're in the same space as them. Someone asked, do you break up with someone if they did something that you resent them for? I would say yes, you have to, because let's just say, for example, that this person cheated. And I'm not saying you have to break up with every person that cheats on you if you're able to work through it. The part that they said is if you resent them for it. So if someone did something to you and they wronged you, and you were able to 100% work through it, and that's a personal decision that nobody can make for you. But if you are not able to let it go and you resent them for it, then that's a negative situation for both of you to be in. One, they are going to be constantly trapped in terms of feeling that they've wronged you and that they can do no right, and that they are kind of in this emotional prison where they're expected to be punished permanently for an act that they can't take back and undo. And it's also very negative for you. No one wants to feel like a prison warden. Say you've been cheated on and now you're like always wanting to go through someone's phone and you don't trust them. And if they're late, you're thinking, oh, they're doing it again. And every time their phone goes off, you're paranoid. That's just not a good space for anybody to be existing in. If there's anything in a relationship that you can't get over, then that relationship basically has to die. There's a line from a Woody Allen movie where he talks about, how relationships are like a shark. And if they can't move forward, they die. And then he goes on to say, and what we have is a dead shark on our hands. But, if you're trapped in something that you can't see a way out of, and it's just this unhealthy cycle of resentment, that's a no-win situation for anyone. As much as it hurts you to let that person go, you're gonna have to release them. And then just take what you learned from that relationship and move forward. But you can't punish someone forever. And you can't live in that space. It's not healthy. I had a couple people ask me, how can a young guy make himself more desirable to an older woman? It depends on what your intentions are. Your intentions just to be like a little boy toy, or your intentions to be in a relationship with them. Let's just be straight up. If your intentions are to be just like a boy toy, then the way to make yourself more desirable is to look the best that you possibly can. Same is true of older men that are looking for younger women. They want something that they're sexually attracted to. So, it's kind of a no-brainer in that regard. If you're a younger guy looking to catch the eye of, say, maybe some like divorcee that's just looking for, a Stella got her groove back kind of moment, then you want to be in shape, you want to look good, and you want to flirt with them in a way that makes them feel like they're young again and that you desire them more than any of the younger girls in the room. And not because you are comparing them to the younger girls that are in the room and that you have some sort of like older woman, fantasy that you're looking to act out, but just the fact that they're older is irrelevant, and you're just drawn to them because you genuinely think they're the most attractive woman in the room, not because it's some like kink that you have. I think if someone feels like they're just a notch on your belt, they're not going to be attracted to that. But if you just make a woman feel very sexy and desired and don't even bring up age or act like it's of any relevance, I think that a lot of women will be so flattered that this young guy is choosing to give them attention over all the other women in the room. So for me, personally, I'm not, I shouldn't say I'm not into younger guys. Just generally speaking, I tend to usually end up with people that are older than me. I think I've always been a very old soul, so to speak, if that's a thing. And even at a very young age, I was, like in high school and whatnot, I was very drawn to people much older than me. Because I've always been drawn to people that I feel I can learn something from, as opposed to being the teacher. But that's just, a personal preference. I think, there's people that like to be the student, and there's people that like to be the teacher in a relationship. And I'm more attracted to people where I feel like I'm the student and I have something to learn from them. And typically that happens to be with older men, but I wouldn't rule out a younger guy if, he brought something to the table that I was very impressed with. I don't think I really think about age first and foremost. It's more of like a way that somebody carries themselves in their, and what they bring to the table. Just generally speaking, I tend to prefer what the older guys are bringing to the table. But it's not about a number or an age. I'm gonna end this video because it's getting like really long, and I'll just answer the other questions in another video another time. I have like I asked on Instagram and on YouTube, so I have like 6 pages of questions, and I don't think I want to hear myself talk any longer. So I imagine that you don't want to hear it any longer either. So the last question that a couple of people asked, I do want to address this one, is how to date if you have a disability and if you're new to a city where you don't know anybody. So those are both questions that I feel, passionately about. I worked in special ed for a long time, and I know for a fact that there are dating apps that are specifically geared for people that do have disabilities, as well as there are organizations that, are going to have meetups for people with disabilities, especially with, it's for everything, but I specifically worked with a lot of people that had autism. And in this case, this is where the internet is your friend. And you do want to go online and look for dating apps that cater to other people that have, let's say, Asperger's or who are autistic. I think that it can be really beneficial to meet someone that understands the world in which you live. And I think that it can be an obstacle, not that it's an insurmountable obstacle, not to say it, that there's not some people that have autism that don't end up marrying people that do not. I think Amy Schumer even recently came out and mentioned that she married a man that's autistic. There are many high-functioning autistic people that marry people who are not autistic, but I think that it can be a great sort of, I don't know what the word would be, just common ground, to go on a dating app where you can connect with someone that may be going through some of the sort of like socialization issues that you may have and that can relate to you, and that you guys can bond on that level. I think that, connecting with people who are relatable to us is something that just instantly makes us feel a bond and a connection to them. So if you do have some sort of disability and you're not having success on the dating apps, if you are, then keep doing what you're doing. But if you are feeling like you've hit some wall, then perhaps try one that is geared towards bringing people of that community together. And I think it can be advantageous to meet people that share a commonality and to connect with them, even if it's just a friendship. So I would definitely urge you to use the internet in that case. And then the same for people that are new to a city and that don't know anyone. Like I said at the beginning, I think that as much as the internet brings people together, it also can be very isolating because our phones can become our best friends, and it's so easy to move to a new city and to just isolate yourself with Netflix and whatever, social media that you have. And that instead of doing that, I think that it can be really nice to join groups, whether it's on Instagram. Like on Instagram, for example, I follow a lot of different hiking groups that are in my area, and they're people that meet up and they go on hikes together. But just find something that you're interested in, whether it's yoga, whether it's hiking, whether it's archery, whether it's Star Wars, whatever it is, there's a group for it. Join that group, reach out, make connections. If you have the Meetup app and it meets up in your city, meet up with people that share your interest. Get out there, take the risk. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. You're gonna have to put yourself out there. You can't just desire connections but just sit in your house and not do anything to seek them out. Generally speaking, friends do not come knocking on your door. So you're gonna have to be your own advocate and, obtain the things that you feel like you're lacking. You're in the driver's seat. Make it happen, Captain. Alright, so that was a lot. That was a lot of talking. Next video is going to be a role play. I hope that some of this was helpful. There's so many more questions, so I'll have to do it again another time, but this is enough chit-chatting for now. Alright, well, take care.